Katie McGinty is Chief Sustainability Officer at Johnson Controls and joins us now to unpack this one a little bit. Katie, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. In some of the notes we've been shared, we really talk a lot about buildings accounting for almost 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And the change in that is going to be based on either moving out of those buildings or refurbishing a lot of those buildings. And we're seeing a little bit actually happen, particularly here in London. But is that easy to do? I mean, it's a high capex environment.
It is indeed, and thanks for having me. So the bad news is that buildings are 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. But the good news is that we have the technology today to turn that equation around. And it's a trifecta. It's about driving energy efficiency, it's about electrification of those buildings, and then the AI conversation, it's about digitalization of the buildings. The further good news is when we take that technology to the building, it's not just solving a bad, cutting high energy bills, cutting carbon. It is driving the strategic purpose of the business. The building goes from a dead weight on the balance sheet to an organic asset that can actually help to drive that business's purpose. Attract employees, make sure you've got a healthy, productive work environment, enhance the bottom line, and with shareholders now looking at climate change and saying, we want to know that you've future-proofed those assets, the challenge becomes really an opportunity.
Yeah, I was wondering about that AI conversation. How does that exactly play into ensuring then you get that shift right?
Exactly. So when you think of your car is essentially a computer on wheels now. Buildings are the opposite. So buildings are the least penetrated space in terms of things digital and data. The real revolution coming to buildings, and our platform's called OpenBlue, is to grab that data and put it to work. And here's what happens. So with our AI platform in a data center, for example, we find out that the chillers cooling that data center are not in sync. One slight adjustment and it's a 30% cut in the energy and the cost of that data center. Or in a hospital, for example, the very same sensors we'll use, temperature, humidity, to cut that HVAC system, cut your energy bill. Those same sensors detect and scrub out of the air germs and viruses. So again, with data, with AI, we are enabling ourselves to solve a climate problem, but we're bringing all kinds of efficiency, productivity, and driving organizational purpose.
This conversation hits a lot of the big trends on markets and possibly explains why investors have been so interested in your stock over the last year or so. But the performance this year has been more modest versus what we've seen elsewhere, and does make me wonder whether investors are concerned about the ability of the commercial real estate sector to pay up for the changes, given that they're now facing much more difficult credit conditions and the structural changes they're seeing with hybrid working models. What are you witnessing with the clients in their ability to transition towards the future using your technology?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think what we see out there is it's spotty. And it's not new to say that real estate's location, 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 but a combination of location and the class of building, and you have very different pictures. What we see consistently, though, is that clean and green is earning a premium in the real estate space. You certainly see that here in London, where people are paying up both to prove that they are a purpose-driven organization, that they are values-based, but that when those employees come back to that workspace, with that digital platform, you can guarantee the air is clean and healthy. So those kinds of properties are definitely earning a premium. And I think we see it more broadly in the investor space when recent polls show that investors are saying, look, almost by more than 80% year over year, this year, they are more concerned, want to see resilient properties, resilient investment assets. That's where the dollars are going to go.
I think it's fair to say we have seen some initiative in the C-suite to try and get going on climate change, but obviously there are practicalities here, and this is where federal funds come into the equation in terms of speeding up transition. I was looking at a fantastic story last night, PG&E. Effectively, this is a big company in the United States, tapped $7 billion in federal funds to reduce California wildfires by burying power lines underground. A big change. It's not the only company to tap those federal funds. General Motors on a battery venture as well, Ford as well, when it comes to electric batteries. There is money at play here for climate change. Would it be helpful for your sector to be able to tap federal loans for the type of challenges that we're talking about to get some momentum in buildings?
Absolutely. And in fact, we've never seen such a coming together of forces. On the one hand, you have government with carrots and sticks, regulating, mandating that you upgrade your buildings, that you decrease your energy, that you move into renewable energy, but then providing financial resources to get that job done too. That's combined with what investors are saying. They're saying, look, we want to know that the long-term asset value here is being preserved. And so they're adding an insistence into the equation. And I think you put it together, and there's never been a better, more opportune time to not only achieve progress against a problem like climate change, but to avail yourself of funds that are out there and drive your bottom line.
This conversation is happening while we have Bidenomics in play under a Democratic president, and we're counting down to an election that could potentially bring change. The Republicans already have released a document under an ESG working committee. It looks like anything but ESG if you look at the language. Republicans' efforts to protect the financial interest of everyday investors from progressive activists who are using our institutions to force far left ideology on Americans. If there's a change and Republicans have a stronger hand from here, does that mean everything we're talking about falls by the wayside, or at least steps back from the current momentum?
So, there's an incredible swirl in this space, right? So on the one hand, you have those talking about woke capitalism. On the other, you have people worried, is it all greenwashing? Businesses aren't doing enough. To me, having been in this space for 30 years, I said, all right, we've arrived. Everybody's paying attention to this issue, and they're going to get their opinion in. But here's why sustainability sticks and stays now. It's no longer a thing of charity. It's no longer a nice to have. The reason is it's driving business fundamentals. When you're smart about sustainability, you're rolling up your sleeves and you're saying, where do we have waste in this business? Because every dollar needs to go to growing the business, not spending money on wasteful energy. For example, when you're competing out there for the best talent, showing that you're a purpose-led organization, 70% of young people are saying that's going to be the determining factor for me as to where I go. And we talked about shareholders. So I think that sustainability has matured beyond the political pendulum. It's real business. 70% of CEOs are saying now, even as they've been concerned about a recession, that ESG stays in the boardroom because it's proven its financial value to that enterprise already. So the game has changed. The nature of this being not just on the periphery and nice, but really business centric is a changed game.
With you having followed this space for so many years as well, you've seen regulation alter and change, and even the goalposts somewhat change in terms of what can be achieved, what should be achieved as well. How do companies navigate that and say to themselves, okay, we've made a decision now, buildings have been this way for hundreds of years now, and now we're going to shift to something else. Maybe that changes along the line. How do we know for sure that this actual investment is longer than long term?
Yeah, well, listen, I think it has to be multi-solve, right? You're not going to reinvent your whole business for something that feels like a fad. So again, when you have these multiple factors coming to play, you've got your constituents in terms of the communities and where you work demanding that they see responsible behavior. You see energy prices. I don't have to tell people in Europe about energy prices robbing growth dollars. You want to get on that and turn that around. And when you see Mother Nature shaking her fist, you want to make sure your assets are resilient against that disruptive environment. I will say that the coming of regulations in this space, in terms of taking these issues from the basement to the boardroom, when you have now financial regulators demanding that there is reporting of climate information just like your financial information, again, that's going to drive both consistency, clarity, and I think it's going to accelerate action in this space.
Katie, it's been such a treat speaking with you, and we've been following your company for a while now, so thank you for stopping by to see us.
Thank you. It's an exciting time, and I appreciate the time to visit.
Thank you.
Katie McGinty with us, Chief Sustainability Officer at Johnson Controls.